So I guess while we're waiting for more participants to join in the good old throttling of Zoom to happen, what we'll do is we'll do some introductions. So I'll start. So I'm moderating this event. My name's Darren Ellicott. I am the head of customer success here at HackerJob. Tasha, do you want to start and then we'll walk through?
Hi, I'm Tasha. I'm a talent partner at Auden. We are a fintech scale-up based in Manchester.
Ed?
Hello, I'm Ed, talent director at Gymshark. We are apparel sports sort of community.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Sean Rollins. I'm a lead software engineer at Kanops.
Hi, I'm Neil. I'm a lead developer I've worked at quite a few corporate companies, so yeah, happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Tuba. I've been working as a software engineer at LexisNexis Solutions almost 1 year.
So the topic for all the listeners today will be on the perks and benefits that matter most when choosing between companies. So in terms of housekeeping, this is always the fun stuff. So when you're asking questions to the panelists, if you use the Q&A functionality, if you want to use the chat functionality, go wild. But what I would say is if you can change it to all panelists, all attendees, sorry, I mean everyone can see what you're talking about. You'll be invited to a new webinar every day, so invites will be sent out in the afternoon, and the email will be coming from hello@HackerJob. Tell your friends, get it all plastered everywhere. I know that's what my week has been so far, so anyone that's connected me on LinkedIn, I apologize that that's all you've been seeing from me all week. Look forward to that in the next 2 days because I don't think I'll be going off at any time. So I guess let's make a start and then everyone else can catch up. So I guess a starting point to go with, I'll give you a couple of stats and then we'll go into the actual insights. So when looking at perks and benefits that matter most, salary of course came up as the top reason that engineers are looking for jobs. So 81% of engineering talent regard it as the most important perk when it comes to choosing between jobs at different companies. But 58% of those we surveyed stated they would not be willing to forego any salary to secure the benefit and perk that mattered most to them, stating that it should be included as part of the overall package. So insight number one, and we'll start with the engineers on the panel to start, and then we'll kind of move in as we go. So insight number one is 62% of developers and engineers want to learn and develop, want a learning and development budget. So I guess starting with Tuba, and then we'll move on to I can't get words out, to Neil and Sean. Can you start by telling us why an L&D budget is important to you and the impact it has when you are considering different job offers?
How can I say, the learning and development is the most important part of our job. For example, you need to improve yourself every time, and we need to learning new things because the technology is going forward. Of course, we are doing some special things for the learning stuff, but when the company supports that, you are feeling that, yeah, company is care my improvement and they are supported me, and it's really important for me if the company has the learn and development budget, or they have some learning tutorials or some things. They have their special learning stuff, and I care the learning and development myself. That's why this is really important for me. And this is the two sides of thing. When I improve myself, I can contribute to company more than before. I think it is good for the company as well.
Fine. And then yourself, Neil?
For myself, I feel it's really important. The only constant in our environment is change. And not only just classroom training, but if there's company budget or certain tools like LinkedIn Learn or Pluralsight that you can have and It gives you that additional flexibility to, when you've got time available, because we are all very busy normally, to go and further your knowledge about certain topics that you find interesting or that pertain to your specific role.
Perfect. And yourself, Sean?
Yeah, no, it was definitely very important. To me, it kind of shows that the company's kind of invested in you and give you space and room to grow and kind of progress, and like Jim said, not only your personal development but contributing back to the company. But yeah, rate of change. There's no way you can kind of survive in this industry without being able to keep up with the latest technologies. So very important.
And then I guess for yourself, Tasha and Ed, L&D allocation, I guess, is a great way to give employees autonomy over what they are doing and the overall contribution to the business. So for a lot of small businesses that are listening in, it can be, I guess, quite overwhelming to know where to start. So can you talk to us about the L&D offering at your respective businesses? Tasha, do you want to start? Sorry, I should have.
Of course. I was kind of like, where should we start?
I was being polite there. Yeah, sorry.
I think we're certainly still on a journey with our L&D offerings. It's probably a little bit more kind of fluid as we're still kind of maturing some of our processes in that space. But we really do like to facilitate where we can, whether that's through kind of internal tech conferences that we've started in the last couple of months, whether that's making sure our engineers have learning time, making sure you have access to learning platforms like Udemy, and also making sure that people want to do certifications, qualifications, go to kind of paid conferences, that we kind of look into that and make sure that that activity aligns with where that individual sees their career going. Something that we're kind of working on as a people team at the moment is kind of bringing some transparency to our career paths at Auden with a framework. So we are being transparent with the behaviours and skills that we expect at each level within each discipline, so that we can really give back to kind of our employees to guide their career. We're kind of there to facilitate that direction, whether that's kind of moving up through the discipline you're in, or maybe taking a side step. Again, just trying to be a little bit more transparent around how we can facilitate. So I think kind of any advice really would be just to kind of listen. I think we've had a lot of feedback, and we're trying to do what we can to make sure that certainly our engineers get what they need from us.
Nice. Ed?
Yeah, I guess really just not to repeat everything that Tasha said, but I mean, as a fairly new start business of 8 years, we are going through huge development, unprecedented really, and for us it's trying to make sure that obviously we're creating great journey sort of candidate experience for their own development, because the more we invest into our people, the better the outcomes for the business as a whole. And I guess we do softer skills around resilience training and NLP and collaborative tools that we can give our teams able to help us to obviously really sort of keep up with the demand of change within the business. But then equally there's that personal, what is it in it for me? And we like to obviously give an allocated budget to each individual, and I think it's a bit of ownership for them to shape, and actually just to say what do they want and where do they see themselves in X amount of years, months, and helping them to really sort of shape that, because I think you can sort of come in with a mandate of we think we know best, but actually we truly don't. And I think that bit of vulnerability sometimes where you go, do you know what, holding hands up, we probably haven't got all the answers here, but actually if you come in and you can help shape that, then it's going to obviously, if that is playing back to the business's strategy and North Star, then I think it's absolutely about making sure that you're bringing those, as I say, those candidates on a really strong journey for themselves.
Yeah, I just giving my 2 cents. I think the L&D budget is pivotal to businesses. Like I know when I left university, I had no idea what I wanted to do because I hadn't been focused enough, I guess, about my journey in school. So I guess what it gives you the opportunity to do is you can look at things as you grow into be an adult and then say, look, this is a path I want to go. Or even within tech, we all know that new technology comes around the corner every day. So if you talked about data science roles 30 years ago, then it's like, didn't really mean a lot. So I think that there's paths that are going to be created during all our career journeys that wouldn't have been there at the start. So I think it's giving candidates the opportunity or employees the opportunity to say, look, this is something I'm really passionate about. I want to go this way rather than that way. So throwing it to insight number 2. So both flexible and remote working are both crucial part of engineering talent when choosing between job offers at different companies. So I'm going to throw it to Ed first, and then we'll go to Tasha, and then we'll do a second talking point to the engineers. But I see the elephant in the room right now is flexible and remote working. I saw a stat this week where 26% of the roles on HackerJob are now UK-wide. So companies are more than ever saying, look, we are open to candidates living wherever you want to live and then coming to the office as and when required. So what is your company choosing to do moving forward? And what do you think organisations should be doing moving forward? And start with you, Ed.
I guess it's such an uncharted sort of landscape at the moment, and I think it's something where initially, you know, again, I sort of go back to the fact we're a very young business. We basically were building processes, systems, operational principles within the culture of how we operate and code and tech, and I think it was something which actually it was a bit the fear of God of actually when, you know, we've got to send people away. Have they got the right tech? Are we set up for it? Have they got the equipment? You know, you've got family impacts. You've got everything. You know, these new experiences that people are happening and sort of impressed on these on individuals. It's really, really tough. Now, for us, I think, you know, we equip and we give a budget to new starters. We give ongoing budget as well to help with, you know, the extra running costs of the house, just to help, just give people that sort of reassurance that, you know, we understand that it's going to be a difficult position to be working from home. And I think just giving ongoing human touches, making sure that sort of informal virtual tea breaks and, you know, sort of we have Office Vibe, which allows us to get an understanding for obviously how people are feeling from home. But from a recruitment perspective, yes, we're saying remote working is a thing, but then equally there is a flip side to that where some people need that community, some people need to come to an office. And I think if you sit there and say it's hard and fast, this is what it is, I think you'll have people self-selecting out, and that's what we don't want. But then equally from allowing us to have that diversity, we're recruiting internationally now, and it is trying to bridge those gaps, but still, and I think fundamentally keeping that community for remote working and making sure that obviously you've still got that connection and that belonging almost.
Tasha?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we've been remote for a year now. Who knew it would be that long? We'd all be working from home, and you know, there have been periods throughout that year where, you know, we have had the office open, but our stance really has been, you know, we can work from home. We are being relatively effective being remote, so you know, we need to be following government advice and continue to do that. We haven't formally agreed as an organisation how we're going to work long term, because I still think it's a little bit too early to do that. As Ed said, I think, you know, who knows where we're going to be in a couple of months' time. But, you know, we certainly from a recruitment perspective have broadened. We look kind of UK-wide now. We've had people join us kind of all over the country, people down south. We've had people in Scotland and Ireland join us. So we can be far more flexible. But I do think we value the kind of time that you get when you're in the office, that social time, that contact, the collaboration. And that's not something that we want to kind of drop. And I think there's a lot of people in the business that are very keen to get back in. But I think that's more going to be on a kind of ad hoc, maybe once a week basis. Certainly from a tech perspective, you know, kind of agile ceremonies where those sorts of things being together might make life a little bit easier rather than, you know, return to a 5-day a week. So yeah, I think certainly flexibility, and I think also flexibility for individuals as well to kind of decide what works for them, and you know, ultimately as long as it also works for the business, then hopefully it will kind of work itself out, and both parties will get the benefit.
And I think you both picked up on a really interesting point there, that I think the difficulty with a concrete we will be working from home model is that you will get people self-selecting themselves out of the process. There's a lot of people that work a job that live on their own. With you not being able to go to the office, it means that for a lot of the week you won't be seeing anyone face to face. And I think that if people are relocating to location as well, I know when I relocated back to London, a lot of the really good friends I have are within organisations that I worked at, because I then went out, socialised with them, and kind of grew a network that way. Whereas if you're working from home, you don't really tend to do that the same way. So I think I agree with the kind of sentiment there. And then on the engineer side, we'll start with yourself, Sean. How important is flexible and remote working to you, and why?
Yeah, so definitely being able to work remotely and flexibly specifically, it's definitely very important. So everyone's lives are changing, obviously pandemic and everything else, but even before that, it's kind of giving you room to be able to have your life as well, to be able to do the things that you want to do. There's definitely a balance that needs to be struck, because there are times where in previous positions that I've had, I've kind of been remote for a year, and then I've been like, yeah, I'm bored now. I really want to see some people. I really want to go in, draw on a whiteboard, get some physical scrum cards out, pass them around, stuff like that. But yeah, definitely when choosing a position, needs to have the ability to work remotely, just so that you can fit your own life in, to be honest.
Makes sense. And then Tuba?
Yeah, I think working from home is important. Actually, I haven't been realized that before started that job. I started that company when the first lockdowns came, and I haven't been at the office. At that time, I was afraid of how can I handle that? I haven't known anyone, and it can be hard for me learning everything from the CAM. So it wasn't like that. When the company support you, when they behavior and understanding people support you, you pass that position very easily, and you can adapt easily. After that, you realize that yeah, working from home is really good, because you can handle your times, and you can, how can I say, you can spend time from the commuting. You don't spend your time to commuting, and you can spend that time to, for example, walking or doing anything what you need, and you can spend money also, and also working flexible is better way, I think, because you can handle that your hours. You can work at your proactive hours. You can arrange your homeworks and your job. It's really easy. Yeah, I miss going to the office sometimes, because I want to be social and I want to contact with my colleagues face to face. During the COVID times, our company is acting before the government. They decided to working from home before the government, and it feels you to, yeah, they care my healthy, and it's you will be happy with that. After the COVID, I think going to the offices every day 9 to 5, maybe it can be hard for everyone, because we used to work from home, but it can be hard. A couple of days working from home, a couple of days working to the office. It will be good for us, I think.
Yeah,
sorry.
I was going to say I don't miss the commute. Like when you said commute, I was like, that is something I definitely don't miss. Going into central London, because I know your office is in Sutton, I believe. So
yeah, London, yeah, central London.
Yeah, so you get to work a little bit more, but yeah, I don't miss the commute. What about yourself, Neil?
Myself, yeah, I second that on the commute. That is really a nice time saver and money saver not to go in. But I must say there's certain parts of the role that it's nice to have the office and the whiteboard sessions, go in, meet the team. For me, I started in this pandemic, so I've met the manager, but none of the other colleagues in my team. And yes, also just picking up on new things is a bit more difficult if you're sitting from home or the cam, like Tuba mentioned. And um, I love the flexible working arrangement. If I would say 2 days a week in and the rest from home, that'll be great. And then just to have that the best of both worlds, if I can put it that way. Flexibility so that you can sometimes just need to pop out for something, or you've got something for your kids to do, and then you can spend the time after hours doing something. And yeah, you also don't know when a great idea is going to hit, and you can sit down and work after hours and maybe take that time off some other time. So that's definitely for me a very big plus point, rather than going into the office 9 o'clock you're there, 5 you leave. Yes.
Nice. So insight number 3, and this one's quite interesting, is that of the engineers we surveyed, 75% of them said that company culture was one of the most important perks. So starting with yourself, and we'll start with you, Neil, because you've just spoken. Talk to us about company culture, and what does a good company culture look like for you individually?
Yeah, company culture is different for each person, what a good one is. And for myself, I like flexible, I like where it's innovative. So where new ideas is not frowned upon, but people take it and we run with it and see how it can work. Just having a caring culture. I know in most cases you spend almost more time with your work colleagues than with your own family. So it's really good to have a good working relationship and being in that culture where you are kind of almost friends with each other. It's something I'd really look for. And it's one of the key points for me.
Nice. Sean?
Yeah, I mean, everyone likes to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. So being able to have that kind of community and feel like you can get support wherever you want is very important. It kind of also, I've worked in places where there hasn't been kind of good cultures, and it really does kind of affect you and the team's ability to deliver. So like cultures of like untrust. You really want to feel like you come in, you do your job. Everyone trusts you to do that, and they trust you to deliver, and they'll support you in whatever way as long as you're honest with everyone. So to me, that's something that kind of has to be there. So you want to be someone that's accepting. You want to be someone that fosters honesty and trust.
And Tuba?
I think the company culture is one of the most important things because you are spend time at the job more than your family. When you are happy at your working hours, it's affect your whole life. And when you're working with a multicultural company and they behavior fair to everyone, and they acting to like everyone is equal, and we respect everyone's culture because there are lots of culture at the company. And when you see that, you feel like, I'm valuable at that company and I'm happier than before. And after that, the employee is, how can I say, the ownership, the company and the product and the job, and can be more attractive when it's feel valuable at the company.
Yep, makes sense. And then I'm going to throw a similar question to yourself and Tasha, Ed. Company culture is such an important part of a company's overall EVP. So what is one takeaway that any of the businesses listening today can do to improve upon their own company culture? Start with you, Ed.
I think it's about listening. It's about it's about being able to allow people to be empowered to make change. I think it's about people wanting to feel a belonging. For us, we've had a bit of within Gymshark, it's a fitness apparel brand, which people assume that you have to be into fitness, you have to be bench pressing XYZ. We do lunges to each meeting with our laptop above our head, and that is just not the culture that we're not about this culture fit either, because I think people just get caught up in this, oh yeah, they don't fit the culture. It's about culture adverse. It's about being able to come in with experiences that have existed, that you've had external to Gymshark, come in and mold it, shape it, and allow you to have your identity that sits within the business. Because we very much have best ideas win in our place, where challenge, we have a very flat structure. We have CEOs that can be accountable to an exec if they come up with a more innovative, unique idea that actually, from my lens, they're not seeing it, I'm seeing it. As long as it's done in a very respectful way, I think you can really, really empower everybody within the business, everybody to really make change for the business. And I think that's what it's about. This evolution of what our brand for us is making sure that we have this sort of a number of various sort of things on the wall, and this one is evolve or die. And it's very much about making ourselves the most relevant we can. And that's for the community that sit external to the business, but more so than the community that sits internally, because for us, culture drives everything. It's the people that make the change, and it's not just about individuals, it's about as a collective we're much stronger. So that's what I would say about what culture and how that exists and manifests itself in Gymshark.
Amazing. Tasha?
I think that certainly the last year or so lockdown, I think it's all made us kind of think about what's most important to us, and what do we maybe enjoy or not so much enjoy about work and culture. And I think certainly for us at Auden, we were scaling very quickly as an organisation kind of prior to lockdown, and that's continued all the way through. So a lot of the individuals that have joined the business haven't met anyone face to face. So for us, it's how can we respond to that? How can we make sure that everyone does feel that they are part of the team, that they are contributing to kind of the wider goal? And I think that we've made some great steps around kind of embedding our values and making sure that we're actively listening and gaining regular feedback from our employees. Asking them, what can we be doing? What are you enjoying? What can we be doing differently? Making sure that we respond to that. And I think kind of a big thing for us has been really looking at kind of the social and well-being side of things. That was definitely something that our employees were sort of saying to us, that they weren't really maybe getting as much exposure from outside of their direct team. So, off the back of that, we've been able to, spin up a committee to make sure that, those things that are important to our employees are, important to us. And we make sure that, everyone is getting the right balance as we all kind of struggle to kind of juggle work and other challenges. I know obviously homeschooling maybe isn't one of those anymore, but, can we making sure that people are getting what they need from work.
And then in slide number 4, 40% of the developers and engineers see private healthcare and dental care as a priority perk. And I think that this is something I've been very mindful of during the pandemic. That I think that before COVID, we were very much in the age of the ping pong table and the beers on Friday. So whereas now it seems clear that there's more meaningful perks that companies and engineers and all kinds of individuals within businesses are interested in going forward. So starting with yourself, Tasha, what are the trends you're seeing within your organisation about the interest in different types of perks?
I think that, as I kind of alluded to, I think our priorities have kind of changed. And I think that certainly, even if I think about kind of candidates I'm speaking to within the recruitment process, I think people want, far more kind of flexibility. Yeah. Certainly want more kind of ownership. I I think people want to kind of be, kind of trusted as well. So I think that's something that we're trying to encourage. I know myself, I can literally be on back-to-back calls, back-to-back meetings. Before you know it, it's the end of the day, and I've not moved from my desk. So we've been kind of looking at how can we limit meeting times? Does it need to be a full hour? Do you even need to be at your desk? Could it be a walking meeting? Can you be kind of in the park and still taking that call in and contributing to make sure that people get that that balance? And I think that for certainly for me, and I think for the people I've spoken to recently, that's probably been the shift. It's more of the kind of, well, the softer side, but it doesn't necessarily need to be that kind of extra kind of contractual benefit that's important now. I think people are really assessing, as I've said, what's important for them now. I think we've all got slightly different priorities, and I think it's that kind of well-being and flexibility, I think, that's come to the forefront.
Yeah, and I think on top of that, it's about limiting screen time and limiting meetings as well. I think we all, and it's ironic that I'm saying this when we're on a Zoom call, but I think we're all like zoomed out and all teamed out at this point. That when we first started, I think I was spending 4 or 5 hours of my day literally looking at the screen and being in meetings and not really getting up and doing lots. So I think that whenever you can, finding a way to limit that for your employees is a big thing. But sorry, I'll let you speak as well, Ed.
No, I mean, I just, again, not to sort of on the back of Tasha's points there, it is all about that flexibility. And actually, as an employer, just showing you give a shit and you actually know that some people can actually, we've got a guy who in the tech team who is homeschooling, and his hours, we don't speak to him before 12 o'clock because he's having to do that. And we have to appreciate that in order for his own mental health and his well-being himself, that's his priority. Well, the business still comes priority, but he's working and sort of cascading his day to further on. And I think for us, new perks and benefits. I mean, we were very much about, we used to have a hairdresser at the office where, a little bit of life admin that people just can do without doing it at the weekend. I think it's trying to sort of make sure these lines with work are just demystified and they're not blurry, because I think, from our point, we've been recruiting in Denver to Hong Kong, early mornings, late nights. You've got to have some consideration. If you're bringing in people from Denver, like, you can't get them up early. It's just an impact on them. And equally the other side to Hong Kong. But I think it is, and we've looked at just potential little giveaways, like if you gave somebody a £6 increase every month, but then if you said, oh, we'll give you Netflix for free, it's little things like that which actually just help people. Again, okay, probably goes against the actual screen time piece, but I think it's just trying to sort of, as you say, we have apps for a mind. So we have mental wellness apps that we've got that people can access content into. And we do online PT sessions as well, which again, we're privileged and we're lucky because of yoga sessions, because we do have a gym and we've got full-time PT people. And so in order to keep them, giving them a purpose, they're putting content on regularly and helping sort of members of the teams just to sort of continue with that little bit of exercise and that sort of, again, that mental well-being. So yeah, there's a whole host. I mean, we're doing a bit of research at the moment, and just maybe getting your ironing done. We might start paying for that, because that's one less thing that actually, if we could not be doing that, that'd be wonderful. Or a cleaner, just things that actually just go at the weekend. It's your time, completely your time. And I think that's where we're sort of very much moving towards. So,
is it bad?
Yeah.
I can't remember last time I ironed anything. I've probably ironed one thing in the last 2 years. I only iron stuff when I go to a wedding. So I don't think that's going to really help me, but I'd love a cleaner. Like,
well, there you go. Yeah, there you go.
Cleaners, hopefully Mark's not on this call, but like, give me a call. We'll see if we can get me in Gymshark.
Absolutely.
Cool. We'll chuck a similar question to the engineers now, and I'll start with you, Neil. Outside of, we've obviously spoke about salary, we've obviously spoke about healthcare. Is there any other benefits? Sorry, Anna, L&D. Is there any other benefits that are important to you when looking at job opportunities?
Yes, annual leave. It's important to work hard, but also that you have got enough leave to really go and relax and just yeah, take some time out for yourself where you really just turn off everything. And other than that, also just if you look at a bonus, bonus is always nice. It doesn't form part of your normal day-to-day expenses. It's something you can use to also just spend some time or money on yourself. Yeah.
Sean?
Yeah, so things like pension schemes. So everyone's like in the world of uncertainty wants to be able to have some aside for when they get a bit older. That's quite important for me, thinking about longer term, especially. And yeah, like Neil said, things like shares and bonus schemes are kind of something that's maybe not. A bonus is a kind of nice to have for sure. Like end of the year, take a nice holiday out of that because you've got downtime to have. But things like shares, like free shares, that kind of longer term can reward you again. And yeah, I've kind of had a few of those schemes in the past, and when they come through, you wait it out. It's get quite a nice windfall. It's quite a nice feeling, and it doesn't mean a lot when you get those shares issued, but at some point you're going to be like, okay, that was worth that time. That was worth investing in that.
Makes sense. And Tuba?
Yeah, how can I say? I agree with Neil and Sean. I don't want to repeat everything, but how can I say? The annual leave is the most important thing for me because I would like to go to my own country and spend time with my family as soon as possible, long. And the bonus would be good for everyone, actually. Yeah. Except that the private healthcare would be good, actually. Actually, I haven't been in the hospital process at the UK, but the private care, I think it's sometimes they give you the most hospitality stuff and the cheaper stuff. So yeah, that's it for me.
It's perfect time to say how good the NHS is. I won't fault the NHS. Especially not in public. So, but we're going to move on to some Q&A questions. So keep them coming in. There's a few really good ones in there at the moment. But Sean, I'm actually going to throw one at you because you've answered a question already, but I think it'd be interesting for everyone to hear the answer. So one of the attendees asked, how do the panelists feel about an engineering team going into work on a sprint for a week or so, then going away and working remotely to complete the work? Does this hybrid model work? Does the hybrid model need to be so linear? And then Sean, you answer this question. I'll throw it to Neil and Tuba.
Yeah, so for me, I've done this a few times, and it can work quite well. So you get that initial kind of collaboration period, and you can get quick feedback from like everyone in the team. So you have of the higher ups people, so people like architects and stuff, their time's always kind of taken up. So if you don't have them in a room that you can lock them in, then it's quite hard to get hold of them a lot of the time. So having that kind of everyone together, focus on one task is quite beneficial. But again, I think it really depends on the work that you're doing and the team. So some teams don't really find it kind of the work they're doing kind of warrants that. It depends how complex the problems are that you're trying to solve, in my experience.
Yeah.
For me, I think I absolutely agree with Sean, and also where in the life cycle of the project you are. If you're in the beginning portion, it's nice to have that time. If it's quite mature and everyone is know exactly what to do, then you don't need to spend so much time together, and it can be quick meetings.
And then Tuba, when I was asking the question, I rambled a little bit, and you look confused. You want me to ask the question again, or have you got it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, please.
So essentially, what the question was do you think it's effective to work in the sprint model where you go into the office during the initial stages, and then you go away for a couple of weeks to work on the sprint you're working on before coming back together?
Okay, a couple of times at the sprint going to the office, I understand that. My understanding is I think it can be better, how can I say, when you decided some important things, it would be better to discuss everyone face to face, and it can be more proactive. It can be better for us going a few times to the office and discuss with the other colleagues.
This question was, we kind of answered it during the webinar, but just in case people weren't there for the initial part, I think this was question number 1, and this one's for you and Ed, Tasha. So are you seeing that your tech teams are wanting to work fully remotely, and are you going to cater towards this?
I think that the majority of our engineers actually do want to go back into the office. I think that as kind of we've discussed on the call, that that collaboration of being able to get together as a team does have its benefits at the right time. So I think that after a year of being fully remote and having so many of our engineers join us remotely as well, being able to get together face to face, how with that kind of team bonding and to be able to work on some of the more complex problems, I think certainly has its benefits, and I think that the majority of our engineers are kind of keen to get back in. But as I said, definitely with that flexibility and kind of continued kind of blended work approach.
Ed, anything to add?
Not really, just echo that. Yeah, just and I think there'll be that initial sudden everybody wanted to come back, and then I think it'll then start to dissipate a wee bit, and people then start finding what the new normal will look like for them. And I think, yeah, it's just being able to, as a business, we know that we can, it's almost flipping agility on its head even more now with this whole COVID piece. It's now making people really, really do so much lateral thinking of how do we best set up, and actually, if let's not overly commit because it might not work, and then we have to rethink it, and just keeping that flexibility as a business as much as from individuals.
Nice. This one's directed at yourself, Neil, but to be, you started during the pandemic as well at your business, so I'll direct it both of you. So how did you find getting a job during the pandemic, and what did your company do well when reaching out to you, and was it easy for them to convey the company culture remotely? So there's a few questions in there to unpack, but hopefully that's all right.
Okay. I think there's another question as well that I looked at, which is about the company culture and where you see it. For me, it was going onto the website, looking at the who we are portion. I work for Virgin Media currently, which is where I got the job in the pandemic, and they got a very nice video there about the company culture and who they are. So I really got a very good understanding of who they are. I still don't know what it's going to be like when I actually go into the office and sit with everyone and meet with everyone and see how it is there. I've been there 3 times meeting new staff members, just quickly by how are here's your laptop, or can you work remotely? Great, see you then. And so yeah, it's definitely a lot simpler if you go in with and being at the company itself. But yeah, they've done a really good job at getting everyone up and running and just, yeah, being flexible.
Nice. Siva?
Actually, it's not scared as I thought. Actually, it can be very, how can I say, it's very good if the companies support you at that time, if they, how can I say, support you as a knowledge, as a business knowledge, when they provide you some trainings about the business, it can be very easy to adapt the job, and they can understand that it's not easy to adapt from the can, so they can be a bit more patient than the office, and they can be wait for their adaptation, and with that process, you can be adapt easily. And so, yeah, actually, I curious like Neil, how it will be when I go to the office and meet them face to face. But I think it's not very different because you know the people when you are talking with them. Doesn't matter they are with you at the same room, but yeah. You feel it can be hard, but it's not hard as you thought.
Nice. And I'm going to flip the question to the other 3 panelists, just because I don't want anyone to feel like they're left out here. So Sean, I'm going to start with you. I'm making an assumption here. You've probably been involved in a couple of interviews during the pandemic, and we're working remotely at the moment, so that makes the interview process completely different, or it makes it different. Let's not say completely different. So how have you found it beneficial that you can now do things remotely, interview wise, or anything like that?
So I've not done any interviews remotely, to be fair, but I did, however, start during the pandemic as well. So I started in December.
Apologies, Sean. Apologies.
Right, no,
your interpretation.
Yeah. So to me, so Kanos did a pretty good job at getting everyone on board, getting everyone there, getting everyone set up. One of the great things for me was actually got to have like a Teams phone call with the CEO. That kind of is a bit of a wow. So you're like, well, I didn't really expect that. I mean, it's not exactly a huge company, so but 1,500 people, but the CEO can still carve out time. I mean, that kind of meant quite a lot for everyone that was on the call, and it kind of helped instill some of the culture from him himself. So he kind of went from the background story of how he started the company all the way through, and that was a nice feed-in. But yeah, I mean, being able to, in terms of being able to do other activities remotely, so obviously being involved in a lot of like client calls, things like that. I mean, that does help, because people are normally very busy. I mean, they're normally juggling. People who are involved in contract negotiations or contract management normally have several different plates that they're spinning at any one time. So to be able to jump on a call for a quick 5 minutes is particularly helpful, rather than having to physically arrange a time, get everyone to come down. But there's sometimes even pre-pandemic, having to get an Amex card, get your travel sorted, things like that. So yeah, from that aspect, this is very useful.
Awesome. And then Tashranen, how are you finding the interviewing with candidates, doing it remotely now compared to obviously face-to-face previously?
Tashranen, well, I guess from our perspective, the interview process, I think, has made it easier. And I think because of obviously everybody converses through Zoom now, this is the media that you have to, and this is, you've got to sell yourself as best you can. And okay, it's always great to sort of obviously get that handshake, which you can't really do now, but that real in the moment opportunity to get to really understand the person. But I think if you've got a good enough recruitment process that you can actually understand the cultural nuances and the values that we try and understand that exist in potential people who join us. But I think, yeah, that it's onboarding. It's all about making sure you front load and invest as much as humanly possible. And you won't always get it right, for fact. But I think, to Sean's point, joining those dots for people just really help. It's one less thing that they don't have to do. It's one less thing that, if they understand where the businesses come from, the different functions, the stakeholder management, those pieces which actually sometimes you can take for granted, and actually to have a new start sat there. And I think we always try and get people just to understand what's going on at Gymshark and really understand what the business is doing, because I think it's easy to come in and go, I'm at home, I need to add value, I need to drop in and just show how wonderful I am, because that's why you've been brought in, yeah. But I think it just sometimes there's little fine changes that you just need to slightly adapt that will work in a different environment. And I think it's just playing to those, really.
Nice. And then yourself, Tasha?
Yeah, I think just echoing what Ed's just said, I think it's made recruitment easier. I think everyone has a little bit more flexibility to take an interview kind of in the middle of the day, or finish a little bit earlier, rather than thinking, oh, how am I going to get to that office from where I am right now in time. Can't even remember what it's like to do a face-to-face interview. It's been so long. I think that our biggest challenge has been, how do we convey our culture when actually as a brand, we're kind of in stealth mode. There isn't a lot that you can find online about us right now. So, being able to really convey that through the recruitment process, we've always taken a bit more of a conversational approach to our interviews. But I think that's become even more important, that, you know, the first conversation I have with candidates needs to be really driven around, you know, what we're doing, how we work, you know, why did I choose to join, and also making sure that that's kind of carried through all the stages. And I think that we've kind of almost added an additional stage with us. You know, we'll let the candidate know that we would love them to be part of the team, but make sure that they have time to assess whether we're right, whether that's through, you know, another conversation, meet the team, coffee chat, whatever it might be, because we do appreciate that it must be a little bit more challenging to really get a feel, you know, that buzz that you would get if you just kind of walked into the office or could kind of see people working, you obviously can't get. So trying to replicate that as much as we can. And, you know, as I said, kind of the onboarding piece is something that we're looking at, because that's also so important, that you're kind of starting that journey from the moment the offer's accepted, rather than kind of, you know, almost waiting for first day to start that activity.
Nice. And I'm going to, we've got 8 minutes left, but given we've got 6 panelists, and I'm going to include myself here, and I want to give an opinion on this, I'm going to throw one more question in, and it's kind of a double question, trying to put a couple together here that are still in the Q&A. So the first one was on like Glassdoor, but I think I want to take it a step further and say, what means do you all use if you were to look for a new job? I'm not saying any of you are, but if you were to look for a new job, how do you make a differentiation between different businesses based on like company culture, what they're going to be like to work for? Like what sources do you use or would you use? And I'll start. I'm not the biggest fan of using Glassdoor, if I'm being totally honest. I think Glassdoor is very much like Expedia reviews, where you never talk about a good experience, you always talk about a bad experience. So I think it's not the best way to make a decision. The recommendation I always give is talk to peers in your industry. There's going to be people that worked that business before that you probably know. And if you don't know, talk to someone already in the organization. There's a lot, I think people miss a lot of the time that if you use sources like a LinkedIn to have conversations with people, most of the time people are open to it. People enjoy having conversations about what's going on in their world and the experiences they've had. So use your peers within the industry to find out what it's like to work for that business and whether it's going to be right for you. So I don't know what sources you've used in the past or what your opinion on Glassdoor is.
I use the first of the LinkedIn, because you can see the company page and you can see the lots of employers working on there. And when you check from the LinkedIn, you can see their posts and you can see their, culture or their understanding. Is it like a Facebook page? When you saw their page, you can understand how people they are, and you can understand the company from the LinkedIn. If I cannot find from there, I can Google it and going to the company page and researching their pages. And I asked my friends, but yeah, the first place is LinkedIn.
Yourself, Neil?
Personally, I don't use Glassdoor. I would do research on LinkedIn, as Tuba mentioned, as well as on the company website, just to go through. For me, something else just to look at is the fit for where the project is and what the project is about. For me, what's the challenge going to be in it, and what would you learn and grow from it?
Nice. Sean?
Yeah, like I said, LinkedIn, but also like other social media. So what their kind of presence is like, and kind of what kind of content they post. So for me, for Kanos, when I was looking at what they've got, they're constantly posting kind of tech posts, posts on like the latest innovations that they've made, the latest projects with government, everything like that. So for me, that was kind of like quite nice to have these are all the cool things that we're doing on a kind of a bit of a real. But I kind of also hijacked some of my initial earlier interviews as well, and I was quite lucky that the people involved were pretty honest with how things were. So not only did they give me a true picture of like the culture, but also some of the bad things that they would say in their own mind, as well as listening to pros.
Ed?
I guess, yeah, I mean, nothing too genius in the sense of LinkedIn. And I think looking into those social channels that Sean alluded to, just in the sense of looking at companies that are transparent and, you know, sort of very open to that knowledge share. And what, I mean, we sort of have a little bit of a problem at Gymshark. We've grown at such a rate that actually we haven't been able to get our own house in order. And I think we're sort of building the rocket ship while we're flying it. And with that means that we can't communicate the tech platform and everything that we're doing in that environment to say, like, we're doing the latest and greatest. We genuinely are, but we're not able to actually communicate that because we've got so many people just being stretched to a resource point. But that's all being addressed. So we're in a good place with it. But I think it's that honesty piece. I think that just to look into businesses and sort of peer in and just see actually how accessible, again, what Sean said, how accessible is the CEO? I think things like that are fundamental. How much do you know about the business? Because if you don't truly know about the business, how do you then really bring your best self to that, and how to sort of navigate yourself through a really, really solid career there? So yeah, just no one, just I think just a bit of that.
Tasha, I feel like this is a question that everyone's giving the same answer to. Can you pull any sort out there?
No, I think asking questions, I think knowing what, if I think about some of the conversations I've had with candidates, the conversations that stand out for me and the ones that I've really enjoyed are the ones where candidates have really known what's important for them, know exactly what they're looking for, what they're looking to achieve in that next role, and really want to know the ins and outs of what they're going to get from us, where they're going to be able to add value. And I think that they're the ones where you know, I'm obviously able to share what's great about us, what I personally enjoy, but also I think, you know, it then allows us to make sure that we shape our interview process to make sure that that candidate gets the best from it, because I know exactly what their drivers are. So I think that, and that's something that I do when I've kind of job searched as well. I really want to know, you know, where I'm going to add value, and does that culture align with my kind of my style and ways of working. So I think that would be a bit of advice from me, that, you know, as a candidate, don't be afraid to kind of tell the business, the recruiter, the hiring manager what's important for you, and get them to kind of, you know, give their view.
I would second that point. I think that something I always find important when interviewing people is explain your business, what's and all. I think there's nothing worse than over-promising and under-delivering, because you give a really bad experience. Like, let's be honest, all our businesses have bits and pieces that in a perfect world we would improve, or we would change, but change takes time. So be honest about where you are in that journey right now and where you want to get to, because I think that's the only way of really giving someone a good experience. Fine. So we've got to the end of the webinar. Firstly, I want to thank obviously all the panelists on. Hopefully everyone's enjoyed it as much as we have. One, obviously thank the attendees as well. If you've got questions to any of the panelists afterwards, feel free to shout them through to hello@havjob.co. We will make sure that all of these are answered. But thanks again, all.
Yeah, thank you very much.